On the internet today, there are billions of websites, but before even visiting one of these websites, a program must be consulted. That of course being the web browser. Granted, the internet existed long before the world's first web browser, having its roots as ARPANET in the mid-60s. What makes the World Wide Web a special entity within the internet though, is that it makes up just about every web page that we visit. The job of a web browser is pretty simple. Ask another computer for a document, get the document, and then following instructions encoded within the document, called HTML, display the page to the user. The first program to do this, unsurprisingly, was called World Wide Web, created by Sir Tim Berners-Lee at CERN and released on Christmas Day 1990. Within a year, another browser, Viola www, had been released for Unix. The World Wide Web wasn't accessible to very many outside of universities, since the only two browsers which could use it were written for Netscape and Unix, both of which were exotic higher-end computing platforms and mostly unknown to home and business computer users who tended towards Windows and Macintosh. This divide quickly changed though with the introduction of the browser Mosaic in 1993. The University of Illinois had recently received funding for the National Center for Supercomputing Applications from the High Performance Computing Act of 1991, sometimes known as the Gore Bill, explaining the joke that Al Gore had claimed to invent the internet. Gore may not have invented the internet, but a good candidate for popularizing the internet would have to be Marc Andreessen, who wrote Mosaic, the first popular web browser for Windows and eventually Mac. Not only did Mosaic include images in line with text, a first at the time that started very early web design, but being compatible with Windows and Macintosh computers, Mosaic also helped to bring the internet into the homes of average people. Mosaic proved to be such a success that the company Spyglass Inc. licensed some of the source code from the University of Illinois to build and commercialize their own web browser. Andreessen also saw the commercial potential of his web browser, and in 1994, with several members of his Mosaic team, broke off from the University of Illinois and created Netscape Communications. Their new browser, Netscape Navigator, was a complete rewrite and eventual competitor to Spyglass Mosaic. It was named internally Mozilla, a combination of the words Mosaic Killer. Netscape Navigator quickly became popular to the public, with many ISPs and computer magazines distributing it for free. With well over the majority of the web browsing market share by 1996, Netscape soon found itself in a powerful position for the future of the web. Any design changes or new features included in Netscape, like JavaScript, frames, cookies, and others, were soon copied by other browsers in an effort to stay compatible, and would quickly become standards without ever having to go through the World Wide Web Consortium, the organization responsible for standardization on the web. Not only was this helpful to Netscape for allowing it to lead the way for online content, and commonly being the first browser to get a new feature, but it also left all other browsers in a continuous game of catch-up, devoting more time to mimicking Netscape's new features rather than creating their own and becoming more competitive. It would take massive developmental resources from a huge company with lots of money to topple Netscape's throne. Enter Microsoft. Microsoft had quickly realized the potential of creating a web browser and decided to create their own web browser off of the same source code of Mosaic licensed from Spyglass Inc. The first few versions of this new browser, called Internet Explorer, weren't very impressive, but after setting a massive development team loose, IE3 was about functionally identical to Netscape Navigator, with the added perk for Microsoft that Internet Explorer was conveniently included with Windows, leaving many users with the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" philosophy towards their browser, and never even considering taking the time to install Netscape. Tensions between both companies were unsurprisingly rising, and what better way to show it than to pull a few pranks? As part of the release party for Internet Explorer 4, Microsoft employees constructed a massive metal sculpture version of the blue E logo and placed it on the lawn of Netscape's offices. Not once to be outdone, the Netscape employees knocked it over and placed the sculpture of their mascot, Mozilla, on top, with a sign that read Netscape 72, Microsoft 18. A reminder that even though IE market share was growing, Netscape was still on top. Humor aside, Microsoft was still growing quickly, and certainly through suspicious means. In 1998, their dominance in the browser market became one of the central points in an antitrust case against them, United States v. Microsoft Corp. Initial ruling threatened to split the company, but in the end, Microsoft was able to keep Internet Explorer as a part of Windows. By the end of the trial in 2001, Netscape market share had been all but decimated, and right before being bought out by AOL, the then up-and-coming ISP, Netscape was made open source. After several failed attempts to win back its user base, AOL pulled the plug on Netscape in 2008. The dominance of Internet Explorer during the early 2000s was incredible, and with near total control of the industry, Microsoft's Internet Explorer ruled the web, much like Netscape Navigator had done in the past. That was until a competitor arose, from an unlikely source.